We are live for the first time in 3 weeks? I think it's been 3 weeks. But back with Friday Night Tech Talk once again. And we have Renz. He was the first one in. And Eleanor just popped in to say good evening. And there goes my phone doing what it always does. Okay. So, Alan's in here. All right, so we've got Jersey well represented in here. That's a good thing. Good to see you, Alan. Happy New Year, brother. Okay. So most of you know, if not all of you, that I've been a little on the sick side the last 3 weeks. What I had starting out was a cold. And for me, that's usually like not much of anything. But right behind it, we got snow. And we get snow here in Chattanooga, maybe an inch every 3 years. And I live on a high hill. Eleanor lives on a high hill. So me and my landlord couldn't go to work that Monday with the snow. Eleanor couldn't go to work that Monday with the snow. We live on very high hills. And as soon as the snow happened, I started freezing and I really got sick. I think it was a combination of cold and Omicron. And I was never terrible, but it took a while. This week was my first full week back at work. And thank you, Alan. If possible, I will. Keep in mind, this is my first stream back since being sick. So I'd say I'm at 90-something percent, 92%. Yeah, I've heard about the storm you guys have had. So, yeah, we don't get that much down here. Down here, if they get an inch of snow, all the schools are shut. And all of us from Jersey laugh at them. But anyway, let's see, what is Ren said, you were not sick, it's just your body adjusting to the cold. I wish. Normally, I'm so healthy that I can ignore it, even though I've had frostbite twice and I hate cold with a passion. Something about having the cold and the snow right behind it, and then the undergoing is just it combined. I felt terrible the day of the snow. But I'm almost back to normal, feeling pretty good. Elmo's been sick too. She's had a sinus infection, which she has problems with. So any prayers for her we'll take, and she's getting better also. So, all right. So, first thing I wanted to address, because it is not on tonight's schedule at all, or show notes, is the S22. I specifically did not put any stories about the S22 tonight at all. If you'll notice, there are no phone stories tonight. There are no Apple stories tonight. There are no Google stories tonight. And there are no Samsung stories tonight. So this is a real first, maybe ever. But the S22, it's coming out. Let's see, the event is next Thursday, I believe. And Samsung Unpacked. And of course, for the S21, I have the Ultra, which I love, which I think is one of the best phones of 2021, maybe the best. But, yes. Oh, and Eleanor did say, yes, she did test positive for COVID. That's true. But she's well on the mend now, so. And Ren's is saying, everything is okay. Eleanor's a whole lot better the last couple of days. Once she got her antibiotics, for her, it was the COVID and the combination of the sinus infection. But once she got her antibiotics, she started getting better, which is great. So, S22. I thought about the S22 Ultra, but I have only had the last S Pen I had was a Note 3. Shows you how far back that goes. And I had that phone for 2 years, and I've had two phones with pens since then. What I found out a long time ago with me, I never, ever, ever used a pen. So for me, it's just a pure waste of money. Now, as far as the S22, the S22 Plus, and in my case, I'm sure it would be the Plus. I'm going to have to wait until they come out and I see what kind of camera comparison there is between the S22 Plus or regular and the S21 Ultra. If I think the camera's that much better, the odds are I'll end up getting the S22 Plus. But I'm not going to spend the money on the S22 Ultra. And the rumor right now is that the S22 Ultra is going to cost $100 more than last year's S21 Ultra, mainly because you have the silo for the S Pen, and somebody's got to pay for that, and I can understand that. So anyway, that's why I didn't put any S22 stories in for this week. And what I did was, you know me, I'm going to try to give you stories you're not going to see everywhere. But since I haven't done anything in 3 weeks, I said, okay, let's see what I can come up with that are the big stories, even though I had nothing to do with them. So as always, the first thing I'll do is share my screen, that you see where the show notes are like I usually do. And let's get this out of the way if I can. Okay, so that'll be on, let's make it bigger. mobilegeezer.com, mobilegeezer.wordpress.com. It's the top story with tonight's date. So that's where tonight's show notes are. And let me stop sharing that screen. Let's put this back. Okay. And let's move on to the stories. Now, this being my first week back in 3 weeks, it'll be a little shorter. Unless some of the other guys come in, they've been invited. Of course, Mike and Ted and Will and Mark have been invited, so we'll see if anybody comes in. But other than that, it'll be a little shorter. So I took what I thought was the big stories of the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to share screen. Now, all of you probably know I am not by any stretch a gamer, but I figured with Microsoft and Sony doing this big stuff, I definitely should get in on that and talk about it. So we'll start with the Microsoft, and this is going to be on theverge.com. All right, so we'll see. Stop screen. Let's go here. Share screen. This is on The Verge. So I picked a story that kind of gave you an overview of the whole Microsoft Xbox gaming empire. So this one's called A Guide to Microsoft Xbox Game Studios Empire. And there's a reason why I chose these stories in this order. Here's what Microsoft gaming could look like after closing on the Activision Blizzard deal. And we'll see if that happens. But it's a long way out. So let's go to Read a View. This is by Ash Parrish. And this actually is from the middle of January. But there's a lot going on with this story, and still there's a lot of stuff being published. With the impending purchase of Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, Microsoft is now the third largest video game publisher in the world by revenue. It owns several of the best gaming franchises of all time, including Minecraft, The Elder Scrolls, and now Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. Yeah, that's pretty heavy duty. Since the early 2000s, Microsoft has slowly but steadily expanded its holdings, adding to its stable of first-party developers. An explosion of acquisitions in the late teens, combined with the purchase of Bethesda last year, and we'll get to that, made Microsoft a mini-arm behemoth in the gaming industry, surpassed only by Sony and Tencent, and that's as heavy-duty as it gets. Here's a breakdown of the studios and games Microsoft could own if the deal goes through. Nobody's sure if this deal is going through. Though formally established as Xbox Game Studios Publishing in 2000, Microsoft has published a wealth of games dating back to the 70s, including PC standards like Solitaire and Minesweeper. Talk about going back. Through the arts, Microsoft created several first-party studios to handle the development of its flagship series. In 2001, Microsoft founded Turn 10 Studios for Forza Motorsport. I remember that. Halo Infinite development, that's as big as it got. Industries was created in 2007. The Coalition was born in 2010 after Microsoft bought the Gears of War series from Epic. Didn't know that. In 2018, the initiative became Microsoft's first Santa Monica-based developer that is working on a new Perfect Dark game. I never heard of that one. And in 2019, World's End was established to oversee the Age of Empires franchise. That I do know. Now, of course, anybody wants to get in here and educate me as we go along and mention anything about some of these games I've never heard of, feel free. It'll all be part of my education. Microsoft's first big acquisition was when it bought British-based developer Rare in 2002. Throughout the 90s and into the early aughts, Rare became emblematic of the mascot platformer genre with the release of Battletoads in 1991. Don't know that one. Continuing with the Donkey Kong Country series, even I know that. Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and Donkey Kong 64. I remember that too. Rare's first Xbox exclusive was the mediocre action-adventure game Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Its second, Viva Pinata, enjoyed a much warmer reception. Somehow, as soon as I saw Viva Pinata, most of you aren't old enough to remember Elvis, but I immediately thought, Viva Pinata. But you know how my mind works. Rare developed several games for Xbox's now defunct Kinect peripheral, and it currently maintains the popular pirate co-op game Sea of Thieves. I don't know that one. In 2019, Rare announced it was working on a new action-adventure game titled Everwild. In 2014, Mojang became Microsoft's largest acquisition to date, adding the wildly successful sandbox game Minecraft to the Xbox family for $2.5 billion, cheap by today's standards. 2018 was a major year for Xbox, acquiring 6 studios. Compulsion Games, creator of the We Happy Few, and currently working on an unannounced third-party narrative game. Ninja Theory, RPG-centric in Exile Entertainment, developer of Wasteland 3. I don't do RPG games. I never have, so I'm not the guy to talk to about that. Obsidian Entertainment, maker of The Outer Worlds and the forthcoming first-person RPG Avowed. Playground Games, developer of Forza Horizon series. Undead Labs, developing a State of Decay series. The buying spree continued in 2019 with the purchase of Psychonauts 2 developer Double Fine Productions. 2021, Microsoft acquired ZeniMax Media, Bethesda Softworks, which was the big deal, seemingly dispensing with the strategy of buying single companies in favor of absorbing one giant publisher and all its studios at once, obviously. Microsoft bought Bethesda for $7.5 billion, acquiring its 8 subsidiaries. Mobile developer AlphaDog Games, I've heard of that. French-based Dishonored and Deathloop, Arcane Studios, Starfield, Fallout, and the Elder Scrolls developer Bethesda Game Studios, Wolfenstein, even I used to play that. Series developer Machine Games, even Elmo used to play Wolfenstein, both of us did. And ID Software, the Celebrated Creators of Doom and Quake, 2 more games I've played from the past. Tango Gameworks, the Japanese developer of horror series The Evil Within, heard of it. Forthcoming Ghostwire Tokyo. Roundhouse Studios, formerly known as Human Head Studios, developer of 2006's Prey. I think I've heard of Prey. And ZeniMax Online Studios, which oversees MMO The Elder Scrolls Online. Provided the deal goes through, which nobody knows yet, There'll be another story coming up about that. Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard King will add 9 new studios, bringing the total number of developers owned to 32. Let me get a quick sip here. Sorry about that. The biggest studios in the deal are Call of Duty developer Treyarch Games and Infinity Ward, as well as Overwatch, Diablo, and World of Warcraft developer Blizzard Entertainment. Activision's previous purchases and mergers will grant Microsoft ownership of former PlayStation exclusives Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot, as well as the Tony Hawk series. I've heard of that. The deal also incorporates a number of smaller studios that work as co-developers or support for Activision Blizzard's bigger games, including Beanox, Toys for Bob, High Moon Studios, Sledgehammer Games, that I've heard of, and the embattled Raven Software, whose employees are entering their 5th week of striking. Microsoft will also gain a major player in the mobile gaming scene with Candy Crush created. Wow, Candy Crush is still around. I didn't even know that. Microsoft purchase of Activision Blizzard presents an immense opportunity to grow Xbox's Game Pass library, which is, I'm sure, is the whole point. And the titles mentioned here are by no means a comprehensive list of all the games it will soon have access to. Soon is a relative term. Microsoft will also have to reckon with Activision Blizzard's history. This sounds like it's going to be a sticking point of permitting abuse and discrimination in its workplace. Seems like game companies are known for that. The CEO who allegedly enabled and buried those practices, as well as burgeoning efforts to unionize the various studios under ABK's ownership. The acquisition is still subject to an approval process and isn't expected to close until 2023. And we're talking almost the end of 2023, so a long time. Another story coming up on that. So I wanted to start off with that story. So let's get out of review and stop sharing. And Brian's in here. Brian, glad to have you here, brother. Good to see you again. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for all the well wishes from everybody who knew I was sick and made the prayers for me. And glad we're all back together here. So I started with the Microsoft story. So I'm going to follow up with the Sony story. And now it's not as big as the Microsoft deal, but still I think it's worth it. Now, what I called it was Sony not to be held back, buying Bungie, stakes going up. Okay, this story is on CNET. So I'm going to share screen. I'll get a quick drink. Okay, so this Sony is buying Destiny maker Bungie for $3.6 billion. And there goes my. Give me a minute, folks. Every once in a while, this particular screen acts up like that. Give me a sec. Sorry about that. Let's see if it pops back in. Okay, there we go. Okay, Sony is buying Destiny maker Bungie for $3.6 billion. Here's what it gets. It doesn't compare to the Microsoft deal, but still. The PlayStation portfolio is poised to get a little bigger. So, go to review. This is by Oscar Gonzalez. Okay. Bungie, the developer behind the Halo and Destiny franchises, which I guess we all know those, on Monday signed a deal to be sold to Sony in a deal worth reported $3.6 billion. This purchase is far smaller than the $12.7 billion Grand Theft Auto maker Take-Two Interactive is paying for Farmville developer Zynga, or the $68.7 billion Microsoft is spending to buy World of Warcraft's creator Activision Blizzard. But the PlayStation is getting its hands on one of the most celebrated game makers of all time. So, good move either way, even though it's much smaller. Still, some analysts wonder if it's actually worthwhile or more of a FOMO-inspired feeding frenzy. Sony's acquisition of Bungie raises questions about what it's really getting in the developer. After all, $3.6 billion is a big price tag for a studio whose main asset is one game. Yeah, but if that game is big enough, I can see that. The move underscores the broader move by larger video game players to scoop up small developers as a wave of consolidation hits the industry. That's obvious. This move could be more about making sure PlayStation gamers have access to a popular shooting title if Microsoft decides to yank Activision's Call of Duty from its game console in the future. Yeah, that would make sense. It's also another signal that marquee franchises such as Destiny are worth their weight in gold, even if it pales next to the Activision deal. Yeah, I think it's still worth its weight in gold. The amount paid for Bungie at $3.6 billion is a fraction of the amount Microsoft is planning to invest in Activision Blizzard, says Piers Harding Rolls, the research director for Ampere Analysis. While this is one of Sony's biggest ever acquisitions, the amount paid by Microsoft puts into context the heavy competition faced in this sector and the strong valuations we are seeing across the games industry. So what did Sony really pay for? Bungie is one of the premier game developers in the industry. The studio started in 1990 developing games for Apple Mac Computer. That's back a ways, including the sci-fi shooting series Marathon. Bungie hit it big in 2001 after being acquired by Microsoft and releasing its next project, a little sci-fi shooter called Halo. Yeah, a little sci-fi shooter. Halo turned out to be a massive blockbuster and the killer app for the original Xbox. Its hero, Master Chief, has served as the face of Microsoft consoles for more than 2 decades. But Bungie didn't want to be tied down by Microsoft Golden franchise. In 2007, it struck out on its own again, and 3 years later signed a 10-year publishing agreement with Activision Blizzard, which led to the release of the next big space drama, Destiny, in 2014. Destiny 2, the sequel, yeah, that was a big deal. Released in 2017, is Bungie's biggest asset right now, making the company an estimated $200 million in revenue. The Destiny franchise is one of the most popular series in gaming today. Since 2014, pulling in more than 167 million players who have played more than 8.6 billion hours. That's a lot of gaming, Bungie said in 2020. A non-Destiny game is in the works at Bungie with a planned release for sometime in 2025. Sony said that it plans to keep Bungie operating as an independent subsidiary. Yeah, we've all heard that before. And that it doesn't plan to lock Bungie's games to the PlayStation. We'll see. That's left some people scratching their heads, including Reedbush analyzer Michael Proctor. With Bungie having more than 900 employees and a few games under its belt, he said, the price tag for Bungie is a bit steep. Hard to say that it's worth $3.6 billion, as it comes out to $4 million per developer. That's a lot of money. He said, noting that other high-profile acquisitions over the past couple of years have typically included dozens of hit games, such as Microsoft's purchases of both Activision Blizzard and Bethesda, as well as Take-Two's purchase of Zynga. Those are all big deals. I think this purchase is more panic-driven than financially driven. Could be. PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan told Games Industry Biz Monday that the deal had been in the works for nearly half a year, and there are plans for more acquisitions in the future. Sounds like there's plans for more acquisitions for everybody. So that's, I guess, Sony's small answer to Microsoft's big takeover. So stop sharing. Let's get out of this. Okay. So let's see who else. Still got Brian. Let's see. Brian says, "Hope your immune system smashes the Rona, Elma." Elma's had more than one bout, so I think she's well able to smash the Rona, and she's doing much, much better this week. Okay, so those are the first two. So you had the Microsoft, then you had the Sony. So I want to follow up with a specific story that this Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal may or may not go through. So that's what the next story is about. And this one is on Digital Trends. Let me get a quick sip. Share screen. Okay. The FTC is reviewing Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. So it may be a long time before we find out how long, whether or not this still goes through. And this was a couple of days ago by D'Angelo Epps. So let's go into review. Microsoft's plan to acquire Activision Blizzard may be hitting a roadblock soon. According to a report from Bloomberg, the FTC will review this landmark games industry deal. This $68.7 billion acquisition of the now controversial makers of Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and more has resulted in many questions being asked by fans of the gaming industry. One of the biggest of those inquiries is whether or not it's even legal under monopolistic and antitrust laws. That's true. That question will be answered by the FTC before Microsoft deal clears by the end of fiscal Q4 2023. So we're closer to 2 years away from a final decision here. Heading the FTC in this ruling is Linda Khan, who is reportedly very opposed to prudential monopolies, as she has been since day one, since she got the job. She partnered with the FTC and Justice Department, wanting to be harder on big tech. That's true, even when it's flexing some big muscle. Is a great potential hurdle for Microsoft and its plan to own so many pieces of the AAA Western gaming market. If I had to guess right now, I don't think this deal is going to go through, but maybe it will. This isn't the first nor last big acquisition conducted by Microsoft or any other large body in gaming. Last year, Microsoft made a similar move with its purchase of games developer Bethesda for $7.5 billion. Even more recently, Sony fired shots back at Microsoft acquisition by moving to purchase the creators of iconic Halo franchise Bungie for $3.6 billion. That's the story we just did. Kicking off or what some are calling the purchase wars. That's a new one on me. While there are many factors pointing towards whether Microsoft's deal will go through, no one will know for sure for quite some time until the FTC reports finally come into play. So I don't think anybody knows if this deal is going through or not. But I just wanted to make sure, since they made such a big deal of that Activision Blizzard acquisition, that we may or may not see an acquisition. So that's where that stands. So I only have 2 more stories tonight, this being my first one back. You can probably hear my voice is just giving a little. But it's okay. I'm much, much better than I was. So TikTok always being big in the news, I thought I'd include the story about TikTok. And this one is on The Verge. Eleanor likes to follow TikTok, so she'll probably like the story. So share the screen. Once again on The Verge. And this is interesting because TikTok has passed everyone in the most popular website in the world. So now it looks like all the big shots want to copy them. Snapchat and Facebook agree that the future of social media looks like TikTok. Stories are out. TikTok is in by Alex Heath. So I'm going to read a review. Snapchat invented the stories format of sharing pictures and videos that disappear. That's true. I remember when that happened. Now, the company is indicating, along with Facebook, that the future of social media looks more like TikTok. So once again, TikTok comes along and sweeps everybody out of the way. In remarks to investors for its quarterly earnings report on Thursday, Snap CEO Evan Spiegel said that less time is being spent watching stories from friends in the app, even though the company had hoped stories engagement would pick up as pandemic lockdowns eased and people started leaving their houses and more. And if I remember correctly, stories, at least in America, has been around longer than TikTok. So it's amazing how TikTok just has overtaken everybody everywhere. Instead, Snapchat users are increasingly flocking to watch videos on Spotlight, Snapchat's TikTok rival, for viewing viral videos posted by random creators and its Discover section for premium shows. Now it looks like they're taking their version of TikTok, and that's what's becoming popular. This is a continuation of the trend we have observed throughout the pandemic, and friend story posting and viewing per daily active user have not returned to pre-pandemic levels. Yeah, because once the pandemic started, TikTok started taking over. Spiegel said in his comments to investors, while we are hopeful our community will in time return to the friend story behaviors that we observed prior to the pandemic, I wouldn't hold my breath. We are focused on innovating in our content offerings to better serve our community today. So it sounds like the more they become like TikTok, the better off they are. That's what it sounds like to me. And they know it. While Snap hasn't detailed exactly what the changes to its content section will look like yet, it's easy to imagine the tag looking more like TikTok by opening to full-screen videos from Spotlight creators with the ability to dive deeper into longer Discover shows. Spiegel highlighted that some Spotlight creators already have their own recurring shows in the app, supporting our vision of Spotlight as a platform where audiences can discover new creators, topics, and communities, and then engage with them more deeply on Discover. I think the problem that the Facebook and Snapchat has is that people who have gotten used to TikTok are going to want to see TikTok, not their versions of TikTok. That's my guess. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook parent company Meta, also identified TikTok as a formidable threat this week. People have a lot of choices for how they want to spend their time, and apps like TikTok are growing very quickly. There's an understatement. Unlike Snap, which is still growing its user base and showing better than expected revenue growth, Meta disappointed investors with its earnings report. Gee, I'm not surprised. Wiping out more than $200 billion of its market value in a day. Wow. Beating the record it previously set in 2018. So while Snap and Meta's business performance is divulging, it's notable that they both see TikTok as competition. Yeah, I'd say dominant competition. Compelling new formats, whether it's stories or the TikTok video feed, have the potential to shift user attention quickly. Snap invented a format that's now ubiquitous, but now it and Meta are playing catch up. If you ask me, I don't think either one of them will come close to catching TikTok. Just my guess. So I just wanted to get that story in there. And it seems to me that everybody that I know, like Eleanor, who really likes to use TikTok, and Eleanor follows a lot of Christian stuff on TikTok. And, they'll feed you whatever you like, and they'll feed you more and more of it. So it seems to me that people like that are going to just keep going more and more into TikTok. That's my guess. So one more quick drink. Okay. My last story for today, probably not going to make anybody real happy, including me. This is again on The Verge. Sharing the screen. You might have heard of this, but wanted to make sure any of us who are Prime users were aware. Amazon Prime's price is going up to $139 per year. The service's third increase ever in the US. Not happy about it, but as a Prime user, is it worth it to me? Yes, for me it is. Everybody has to decide that for themselves. And this was yesterday by Jacob Castronix. So let's go into review. Amazon is raising the price of Prime in the US to $139 per year, up from the $119 annual fee that was instigated 4 years ago. I remember when that happened. The price hike is meant to address higher costs Amazon is facing across the board, from shipping to labor to construction, according to analysts. The price change will go into effect for new members on February 18th, so a couple of weeks, and for current members like me, after March 25th. I assume that means when my renewal comes up, which for me is in September. The price for a monthly membership to Prime is also going up to $14.99 per month from $12.99 per month. So I always think it's much better to go with the yearly, and that's what I always do. Amazon cited the continued expansion of Prime member benefits, as well as the rise in wages and transportation costs, as a reason for increasing Prime's services price. Prime's price isn't changing in other countries for now, but you know it will. On a call with investors, Amazon said it looks at pricing in other countries each year, but it had no further announcements today. That doesn't mean it wouldn't tomorrow. Higher costs, of course, led Amazon operating income to dip substantially during the final quarter of 2021, falling to $3.5 billion from $6.9 billion a year earlier. That's a pretty big drop. The company announced it in its earnings release this afternoon. It's the second quarter in a row that Amazon's profit has dipped, I'm sure just in Prime. Amazon last raised the price of Prime in April 2018, yeah, I remember that, citing higher costs around shipping and other perks. Prior to that, the price was raised to $99 per year, and that's when I came on board right after that. After having remained at $79 annually for nearly a decade since its launch in 2005. Prime passed 200 million subscribers last year. Amazon has continued to expand the services offering, growing from quick shipping speeds to also including access to Prime Video, music streaming, Twitch perks, and more. And that's true. I started out with Prime and stick with it, being a YouTuber, because of the quick shipping. But Prime Video has become a major factor in my sticking as a Prime member. So, and I think Prime Video, Amazon makes some great videos in Prime, and I highly recommend a bunch of them. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said some cost hikes the company are facing are short-term challenges, but will continue in the coming months. Amazon saw higher costs driven by labor supply shortages and inflationary pressures during the holidays, Jassy said, and those issues persisted into the first quarter during the Omicron. So I guess we probably knew it was coming. It's part of being a Prime member. Is it worth it? I think it's very much well worth it, but we'll have to decide for ourselves. So those are my stories for tonight. I'm going to move on. And of course, anybody has any other discussion you want to just pop it in there and I'll follow up. But for now, we'll go to glowing rectangles like we always do. So let me share screen. Okay, so glowing rectangles, a place to talk about all the best tech toys. So anybody who doesn't know Going Rectangles is a place that anybody can share a video or blog, and if you want to get some more exposure for yourself or for someone else, you just put it out there. People will see it, they'll get more exposure, and you get to vote things up or down. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Okay, so if you go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, if you hit top, you'll see what's been upvoted for today. Like today, watch out-of-box Riveter case for the Microsoft Surface Duo 2. Initial thoughts on YouTube. And that was put there by, okay, him made 10 hours ago. So that's one of the top upvoted ones. It's got 3 votes. And of course, you can do the same thing with a blog. Doesn't have to be a video. Doesn't have to be yours, or it can be. It's up to you. Second one is always a commercial. The next highest upvoted one, tech review of a new product. I need community's help. Posted by Garev2. And there's the creator of Glowing Rectangles, Mr. Erwan back now. And he is tied for the second most upvoted. HD Art Monitor Review, bright and beautiful. He would know. He's a real expert in art and photography and sound. So, Renz, thank you so much, sir, as always. Thank you, sir. Renz, you can always depend on Renz. You can always depend on all you guys, really. But I really appreciate it. So anyway, just wanted to get in the usual shot at glowing rectangles. You want somebody or yourself to have a little more exposure, post something that they've done or you've done on glowing rectangles, and they'll get a little more exposure and probably get a few more followers. So that's the show for tonight. And yes, I know it was short, but you can hear my voice is trying to slowly give up a little bit. And of course, Brian, once again, thank you, Brian. You two guys are awesome. Boy, if all followers like you two, I'd be Anyway, thank you very much, guys, as always. Glad you guys came in and stuck with us. And so I'll be back next week. We'll be back on our regular schedule. And I hope everybody has a very blessed weekend. And hopefully by tomorrow, I'll be back to regular exercising. I hope. My exercise has been sporadic. Normally, you guys know I exercise every day except Mondays and Fridays. This week, I exercised Tuesday and Wednesday, of course, inside, not outside. So I'm hoping tomorrow I get back on the bicycle outside. We'll see what happens. Oh, my pleasure, Brian. Ren says, happy weekend, everybody. And I hope you all have a blessed one. And we will see you all next week. And thanks once again for coming in.